Hello and welcome to the Christmas edition of The Rate Stuff, your essential guide to all things mortgage and merriness. I'm Jack Izzard.
And I'm Peter Stimson.
Peter, is that it? Your Christmas costume?
What do you mean? I mean, got the hat. It's covering my bald spot up, but you know, it's pretty festive,
Peter,
I think.
If you're going to do a Christmas special, Peter, you've got to go all in. I want flying reindeer, I want Christmas pies, I want singing choirs of angels. You're not delivering that.
Jack, without getting personal, you do know this is actually filmed in colour, not black and white with that jumper, don't you?
I'm hurt. Peter, let's just put a pin in the Christmas squabbling. That's usually after the Christmas turkey and everyone's had a few too many sherries. Let's start with some Christmas joy and some good news on interest rates. Fa la 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 la. Yes, I'm really not a singer, am I, Peter?
I've heard better.
No. Okay, fine. You can rest assured there will be no more singing. But I couldn't contain the Christmas joy because, bless Rachel's cotton socks, she has given us a Christmas miracle. Like Santa, she's delivering, we think, an interest rate cut this week.
Well, yeah, it's not Rachel, to be fair. It's Andrew Bailey in the Bank of England. But the economic conditions are there for a bank-based rate cut, we think.
Yes,
so almost certainly.
Hooray, a base rate cut just in time for Christmas. And it was always looking likely, wasn't it? We've seen inflation start to tick down. And then I think the clincher was that GDP data that we had last week. That was pretty bleak, wasn't it?
It was pretty bleak. It's down 0.1%. It's down for the last 3 months. I mean, some of it was kind of understandable. We've obviously had the cyber attack on Jaguar Land Rover, which is sort of carried on into the quarter, and consumer spending was down simply because people, stopped spending in light of the budget. People were worried; they were concerned about what was coming out. Yeah. So it was kind of people waiting to see what was coming out, and it's pushed through into the GDP.
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at the numbers, they were pretty negative, really, down 0.7% in manufacturing.
Yep. House
building, the photo opportunity of choice of chancellors.
Yes.
Hard hat, high vis, trowel, all that. Private house building down 2.4% over the last 3 months. So yes, given the weakness of the economy, the Bank of England is going to reach for that monetary stimulus lever, cut rates in December. The question then is, do they do a double cut? Do they do 0.5%?
It sounds tempting. I think they're generally pretty cautious, the Bank of England. What I think will happen, it's obviously dependent a little bit on CPI when it comes out on Wednesday. CPI was 3.6% in October. It's expected to fall, obviously, for November. Market expectations are around 3.5. Depending where it prices, I think it's very unlikely we get a double cut. What I'm expecting is we probably get a cut in December of a quarter, and we may well get another cut of a quarter in February. So we get 2 cuts in quick succession, which will take us down to 3.5. What happens thereafter is really going to depend on where inflation settles and what happens to GDP. It could well be that we sit at 3.5 for quite some considerable time thereafter.
This is where we start to see consumer expectations bump up against swap rates, isn't it? Because I think it's safe to say that most mortgage customers don't follow the swap rates with the same zeal and enthusiasm that we do. And there is a kind of muscle memory in a lot of people's minds, isn't there? After all, they saw interest rates at 2%, 1% for more than a decade.
Yep.
After 2010. They think that's normal. And if they're looking at a 4% rate now, they think, well, of course it's going to keep coming down again and again and again, expecting more cuts throughout 2026. If you're saying that probably the last cut will be that February one, down to 3.5%, that's going to make for quite awkward conversations between brokers and their customers, isn't it?
It is. We're putting the swap graph up now, and as you can see, there's only 2 more cuts priced into the swap curve, and that's being reflected in mortgage rates at the moment. So, even if we get a cut in December, it's probably unlikely to really push through into mortgage rates. So, if you're a consumer at the moment, don't expect mortgage rates to continue to keep falling. It's not really going to happen. What consumers obviously need to understand is the rates between sort of 2010 and around 2022 were an aberration. Rates sub 2%, even 1% in some instances, were not normal. It caused a lot of issues in the market longer term in terms of creating asset bubbles in the housing market. It's kind of one of the reasons we've ended up with sort of 8.5 times income to house prices. And long-term rates around 3.5%, 4% is pretty normal, and it's kind of where the market's going to be. And it's probably the right place for rates to be for a normally functioning housing market.
Peter, if I didn't know you better, I'd say you're actually sounding quite positive.
It is, and it's we've had some pretty reasonable things happen in the housing market this year. Affordability's changed. The Bank of England PRA have relaxed affordability rules, so things are generally looking pretty good. Particularly if we get another cut in December and another cut in February.
Peter, hold that thought and stay with us if you're watching at home, because we will dive into what was good and what was bad about 2025. Plenty of candidates for both.
Yeah.
And of course, we'll look ahead to what's coming up in 2026. So let's look back at the last year and the naughty and the nice of 2025. I've got a candidate for naughty, or rather just downright rubbish really, and that is the house building figures. Do you remember? Build, baby, build!
Yes.
The government pledged that it would get 1.5 million homes built in England during this Parliament alone, and the data suggests it is going to miss that target by a mile. The latest house building data that we've seen fell by 6%. It's now at the lowest level in 9 years, and there just aren't enough homes being built. In fact, that GDP data last week showed that private sector house building fell by 2.4% in the 3 months to October. So we aren't building nearly enough homes, and that is going to ripple across the housing market and across the mortgage market, Peter. There is just this perpetual shortage of supply.
Yeah, it's a number of starts as well, so it's going to really push through next year as well. So it's spades in the ground are a problem. It's not the number of houses that are being completed, it's also the number of stuff that's being started. It's really, really slowing down.
Yeah, so that's a big fat black mark for 2025. Must try harder for 2026. What about you, Peter?
Mine's actually on a very similar vein, and it's the lack of support from the government for the housing market, and particularly first-time buyers. We obviously got the mortgage guarantee scheme, but that to me was just too little too late, and was something that wasn't really needed for the market. LISAs are, everyone's been shouting they desperately needed reform. They don't work for London. They're too, the amount you can actually invest in them doesn't really work. Loads of people cashing them early and losing money. And there's no help to buy. Links back to your point about the lack of building. Builders can't build if there's no one to buy them, or there's no support to buy all these properties. So, we desperately need a replacement for Help to Buy. Doesn't necessarily need to be in the same form as the other one, but there needs to be something that allows builders to build with some support for first-time buyers to buy these properties.
Yeah.
So there has to be something somewhere that kind of provides support for first-time buyers, some support to builders, to get the market moving. It's not just a question of red tape.
Okay, no, that makes sense. All right, well, build next year, baby, build, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
Okay, now we talked about the nice side of the coin, and actually I have got some nice news to report, and that is the budget wasn't the horror show that we all thought it was going to be. Yes, of course, there's quite a lot of taxes in there that no one really likes, but the bond markets said, nothing to see here. There were all these dire predictions about this being a kind of repeat of the Liz Truss mini budget, that kind of chaos. Just didn't happen. We've actually seen bonds steady as you like, and that's not impacted swaps. So in mortgage terms, nothing to see here.
No, I mean, there was lots of stuff run up the flagpole about, potential taxes on housing, lots of other stuff, and actually none of it materialised. There's a few little taxes here and there, but nothing to see here really.
Yeah, mansion tax obviously was the big one. That's going to get a lot of play, and I have seen some research suggesting that it's going to see all kinds of weird distortions at the higher price points. But in terms of interest rates, that's tied to gilts, and that, well, we dodged a bullet, didn't we?
Dodged a bullet. It was all pretty neutral, to be honest.
Okay, few on the budget. What about you, Peter?
My good was just generally the mortgage year as a whole. It's looking like the best year for mortgage lending since 2020. Good news just generally on affordability. The PIA relaxed the amount you can lend above 15%. So, good news for first-time buyers. Also relaxation on affordability rules from lenders. So, not only have interest rates come down, which means obviously, more money can be lent, also the rule around stress rate testing has been relaxed as well. So, if you're a borrower out there, you can borrow more, it's easier to borrow, and borrowing is getting cheaper. So as we go into 2026, borrowing it is getting cheaper, and the amount you can borrow is going up as well. So it's looking pretty good as a borrower as you go into 2026, particularly compared to the last few years. It's not by all means easy. There's still affordability constraints. It's still tough because house prices are still high, but it's getting a lot easier.
Peter, I'm feeling Christmassy. I'm starting to feel the joy. Let's look ahead to our Christmas wish and what we want for 2026. Dear Santa, I have been good this year. I've mostly showed up on time for these recordings, Peter.
You have.
I have kept up with my mortgage payments, so I think I'm due a present, and I don't want very much. I would just like to see an extra cut in the base rate, because I'm remortgaging next year. I'd like the base rate to go down to 3.25%. Do you think I've got a chance there?
I think you've got a pretty good chance. I think 3.25%, 3.5%. Jury's out about where it exactly settles. So I think middle of the year, got a decent chance.
Peter, I never thought I'd say thank you so much for
Well,
potentially making my Christmas wish come true.
It's not down to me.
Oh, shame. It means it's not your gift.
Well, if only.
Okay, what about you? What do you want to see in your stocking on Christmas Day?
I'm a bit more ambitious than you.
Go on.
I would like to see a big reform of stamp duty and council tax, wrapping the two together and doing a whole reform of the market.
Okay, Peter, I would also like to go on a date with Claudia Schiffer. I'd like to fly to Mars.
Well,
I don't think I'm going to be doing any of those things. Do you really think we're going to see a reform of stamp duty? The Chancellor was supposed to do that in the budget. She bottled it.
Well, someone at some point needs to bite the bullet and do something, because stamp duty, as we all know, is a regressive tax. Council tax hasn't been looked at since 1991. Someone needs to do it, and they've got another 3.5 years to do it. If you're going to do it now. Bite the bullet.
Okay, well, couldn't be clearer there. Peter's Christmas wish is quite a challenge. So, Chancellor, government, if you're watching, you know what he wants for Christmas. Don't disappoint him, because a disappointed Peter, that's like mouldy sprouts the day after Christmas Day. No. Anyway, look, this has been The Rate Stuff. I'm Jack Izzard.
I've been Peter Stimson.
Thank you for watching, and join us in the new year as we chart where next for the mortgage market in 2026.